Oh, Hello everyone and welcome to another Reviewing Active video. Today we will be talking about the lovely Sheri Moon Zombie. For those who might not know who Sheri Moon Zombie is, it is quite a mouthful of a name, that's for sure. She is in fact the wife of musician and kind of auteur director Rob Zombie, who also, yes, has a very strange name. Who calls their child Zombie? I don't know. Some people just do. It's weird. We live in a weird world. Yeah, and so recently a colleague of mine who's quite a fan of Zombie's work lent me the majority of his filmography. So thank you, of course, to my colleague. Except for one film, which was something about Salem, the Lords of Salem, so I've got that one coming in the mail. I haven't yet watched it as of recording this section of the video, but of course by the end of the video it'll be my last review and my conclusion. But I figured, hey, look, I've got some time to spare, let's record and talk about which films have we got. We've got House of a Thousand Corpses. We're going to go in chronological order of Zombies releases. We've got Devil's Rejects. We have Halloween from 2007 and its sequel, Halloween 2. And we have 31. So that's 5 films with Lords of Salem at the very end. I unfortunately was not able to catch the screening for Free From Hell, as it's very limited screening in Australia, and it was only like screened, I think, 2 nights in a row at the Nova, and I was busy with, I think I was actually both sick and I was busy with homework, so I hadn't too much in my hands, which I find it quite unfortunate given how I literally had watched the 2 films that preceded Free From Hell. So I unfortunately cannot provide a review for that film, but we'll see how the rest tally up. So let's get into it, shall we? House of a Thousand Corpses is a 2002 film. Oh, yeah, I believe so. Obviously written and directed and I believe produced as well by Rob Zombie, with music done by Rob Zombie and a few other dudes. This is one of the few films that Rob Zombie has actually contributed the music to, outside of probably his latter films being 31. Why is that noteworthy? Because he was a musician before he became a director. So, House of a Thousand Corpses. Look, you think it's a kind of name that, like, it just spills dread and despair, but also has this kind of grindhouse feel to it. Like, this feels like an exploitation film, and it is both. It is, I mean, I'm not going to say particularly horrifying, but it is quite atmospheric and very, very interestingly done, and it is very grindhouse inspired. But it's also very nicely experimental. It's obviously Rob Zombie's like, alright, I've done a whole bunch of music videos, I want to do a film. Here is, like, the craziest shit I can come up with, and it is absolutely mental. It, like most of his films, it's set usually in the 70s or 80s. In this case, I believe it's the 70s. Actually, I think almost all of his films, if not all of his films, are set in the 70s. Either way, you start off in the 70s with, actually it starts off with a great opening with Sid Haig, rip, unfortunately, and that is such a good kicker to the start of the film. It's like, boom, you're getting something crazy, it's amazing. To be fair, I watched the DVD version of this, and the DVD opening is also fantastic. Like, it's just the opening menu of him telling you, like, oh, you know, asking you questions and shit, and then telling you to hurry up and get on with watching the film. It's a nice little quote that they added to that featurette. Yeah, and so with this film, let's see what I wrote down. I wrote it down as stylistic, deadly, and one hell of a ride. What can I really say about the plot? A brief synopsis. A group of travelers, including Rainn Wilson from The Office, Dwight Schrute, are in this country, well, they're in America, of course. They're kind of in like a country town, just looking for gas. They find out about this Dr. Zombie, and they want to explore. And so on their way to exploring, they pick up a hitchhiker. Their car gets messed up for some reason, obviously for a reason, and then they end up going to that woman's house. This woman is Sheri Moon Zombie, by the way, and her house is full of deranged psychopaths who like to kill people. I really cannot detail how the experimental nature of this film is so absolutely crazy. But I will talk about my review of Sheri Moon Zombie and her performance. So in this film, Sheri plays Baby Firefly. It's actually her nickname, but I mean, realistically, any fan would probably just call her Baby Firefly. No one's really going to call her by her actual character name in the film, like what her birth name is. She is a crazy chippy. I actually wrote crazy hippie. Oh, right, I meant to say crazy hippie. Wow, I'm really bad at reading. Congratulations, me. A crazy hippie-like chick who exudes sexual appeal and a whole lot of crazy. This is my favorite performance of hers, as she's not just having fun, but also she's actually doing a pretty good job portraying this character, like as if like her husband was like, he probably wrote this character to be a little kooky, a little sexy, you know, this and that. And then, you know, I mean, by this stage they were already married, so I can only assume that he may have just directed her to be like that, or she may have been like, oh hey, what if I just go absolutely crazy because she hadn't ever acted properly before. And so he's like, yeah, sure, go for it. And they had a blast. You could tell they had a blast whilst making this film. It is just so gritty and gruesome, but it's so fun to watch. Like, every character looks like they're having a ball. Until most of them die. You know, it's still pretty much a slasher film. So, yes, I've also noted that I can see why Rob Zombie married her. She obviously liked his style, and he obviously liked her style. Well, when it comes to exploitation cinema, it makes sense that you have a lot of pictures of or images revolving around someone's ass or tits. They don't actually show off her flesh, but it's very exploitative in the way that they present her from the camera's perspective. I guess she's okay with it. I mean, it's pretty much every other film that she's in does the same thing to her, except for the Halloween films, but we'll get into that later. I actually found on Wikipedia, so probably not a great resource, but apparently Sheri Moon Zombie actually said that Baby is the angelic-looking bait to get the victims. And I think she does pretty well in that. Like, she has enough sex appeal to make it interesting, but like, she mostly like does this to Brian Wilson's character, and he's just like really awkward and like kind of creepy up. But like, you could tell he's turned on, but he's also like, is this like forbidden fruit that I shouldn't be touching? Like, because he also has his girlfriend there, and his mate's girlfriend, who I think may be sisters. They look a lot alike. Either way, yeah, probably best not to touch the merchandise, but at the same time, that's the bait. That's the hook that reels them in, outside of the fact that their car breaks down, which also they apply themselves, but that's just a little side thing. So yeah, I rather enjoyed this film, and I definitely would say it's my favourite of Rob Zombie's, as well as my favourite with Sheri Moon Zombie. So we're starting off big, and we'll get down the path and see how the rest of it goes. I rather admire the experimental style. You can see how he was just trying all kinds of things. You could tell how he was using, influenced by a exploitative grindhouse cinema, which I rather admire. And I feel like his music videos would be something similar in style to this film, and the way it's edited as well. I haven't actually watched any of his music videos, but I could just kind of assume that this is the kind of stuff he makes. I gave this film 3.5 stars out of 5. Worth the watch for this crazy film and even Sheri's crazy performance. Cool, so check that out, and let's move on to The Devil's Rejects. Now, because it's a sequel, we'll stay in the same spot, just get it done over with. The Devil's Rejects came out 2 years later. I believe this was a 2005 movie. Yeah, so Devil's Rejects, plot-wise, it's the same characters pretty much. It takes place, like, almost moments, but, like, not really moments after the previous film. You can tell that they set it up with this, like, on-screen kind of dialogue and whatever, saying, like, oh, you know, the events of this film happened with this and whatever. So it's sometime between the brother of one of the cops from the first film who gets killed, hunts them down, finds where they live, and they have a shoot up their house This is literally explained in the first 30 seconds of the film, then shown for the next 10 minutes of the film, and then it's just about the three main characters, this being Sheri Moon Zombie's Baby Firefly. I should actually look up who the other dudes are, to be honest. Sid Haig is one of the other three, and Sheri Moon's brother in the film. So Sid Haig, who plays Captain Spaulding, it's Bill Moseley, who plays Otis B. Driftwood, which is not a great... You wonder why I didn't remember what the hell his name was. Like, it's not a very iconic name. But then, of course, you have Baby Firefly as well, and it's these three running away from the cops. It sounds like an interesting premise to see them more as the... Not exactly heroes, but the antagonists of the film, but you're watching them the whole time. Like, you have parts where you're looking at the cops, but even the cops have this dirty take on them, this... Just because the main cop whose brother was killed is just like, he's just completely out for revenge. But this film wasn't as captivating for me. Like, the first one was so barbaric in its editing and with the whole experimental style of it. Whereas this film, like, it feels like a 2005 film, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but if you look at certain years, there's a feel to most of the films that happen in those years. 2005 has a feel to it, and this film, The Devil's Rejects, feels like a 2005 film, which isn't exactly a compliment, but it's not exactly a criticism either, but it's because the style has completely changed. Now, a lot more people love this film over House of a Thousand Corpses, and I can understand why, in terms of it being a consistently tonally accurate film and everything being more modernized and stuff. Like, really the feel, the way it's being filmed, everything about it feels like, you know, someone slaps Rob Zombie, was like, stop doing all this experimental stuff, focus on the more mature stuff and show that you've actually grown up as a filmmaker. And he has, and you can tell that his style is more... It's still gritty grindhouse, but not in the perspective of the experimental style from the first film, which is what I didn't like, because I watched these back to back with... I'd never seen either of them before, so I had no context that the second one's style would be very flat and almost kind of bone dry in terms of style. It's just a bunch of scenes with sometimes overly graphic stuff, and whether it be sexualized imagery or violent imagery. And outside of that, I didn't give a shit for the characters. A lot of people have said, like, I've looked at reviews and stuff, especially on Letterboxd, that, like, you know, it's weird to actually care about the antagonists of these films being the three Devil's Rejects, but at the same time, it's like, I didn't care about them, so it was just like, they're bad people, and I've just seen them in the previous film being bad people. Why the hell should I care about these characters? And I don't, and that's the only unfortunate nature of the film. And that's what Rob Zombie, one of his many styles is that his characters are usually always the bad guy is the main character, or like... But, like, think about it in terms of, like, Thanos from Infinity War, if you've seen that. Like, he's the villain of the film, but because it's his film, they find a way to give you empathy for him. Like, you feel for his character, and you understand his point of view. I'm not saying you're going to root for him, but at the same time, you understand him. Whereas these characters, I guess you can understand them to a point of view of, they're crazy and they like killing people and doing bad things, but there's no real reason behind it outside of they just do it. You know, there wasn't any reason in the first one. That's what made the film more horrifying, because it's just so mental. And, like, I haven't even mentioned the fact that there's literally 1,000 corpses beneath the house. It's just mental, that film. Whereas this film is just not like it. So, what did I give for a quote? I don't even know what I gave for my first film. Oh, yeah, so House of 1,000 Corpses, I gave This Is Hell. So, not exactly the best quote. However, Devil's Rejects has said, don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny? This being Sid Haig talking to a kid because he's dressed up as a clown. Actually, I think he was talking to his mother. He was stealing their car, and, like, he's, like, robbing it from them, and it's hilarious. And it's, like, my favourite scene in the film. Pretty much everything with Sid Haig is pretty great. So yeah, it doesn't have the charm of 1,000 Corpses, but it definitely has a more modernized style all to itself, which he definitely continues for the rest of his filmography so far. It changes in his later filmography, pretty much post the Halloween films, but we'll get there. So in the argument of the sequel doing something different, this film definitely achieves that, though to a kind of unfortunately flawed degree, at least in my point of view. While still being a stable film in contrast to the wild experimental nature of A Thousand Corpses, this film feels needless and almost pointless, and especially lacking in style. At least in terms of like a style that resembles House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm not exactly saying I would have preferred something that was like just carbon copy of A Thousand Corpses, but I don't know, this is just such a different route that it's just okay then. It's just something different and it's weird. I mean, look, it's arguably probably a better film, but it just, because there's no real catch to the, the style or the horror, it's just, oh, yeah, but like, I don't know, it's not exactly my kind of, I'd argue it's not my kind of style of horror, but I've watched heaps of films like this that I like, so, yeah, I don't know, it just didn't have that for me, and I think it's because I'd watched such a vastly different style in the previous film. So for me, it was kind of boring, and that was very disappointing. My review for Sheri Moon, she continues her performance as Baby Firefly, however, given the more serious nature of the film, the more mature aspect of it, I would say her performance in this film is like the film itself. It's not wacky or zany like in the previous film, but it's strong and consistent and more mature. So she definitely shows that she has a talent to herself, and that she can especially jump from something that's, oh, it's wacky and crazy and zany, and then suddenly it's like, yo, if you don't sit down, I'm going to cut your tits off, something like that. Of course, I'm not an actor, so I can't exactly portray it as accurately as she does, but, unfortunately, it doesn't help that the tone of this film is so different to its predecessor, and hence was rather flat and boring in comparison, as I said. Arguably, this is a better film given how it's made and its focuses. I love when the dogs bark. It's the greatest time of my day. So yeah, arguably this is a better film given how it's made and where it focuses itself at the same time. I prefer the erratic nature of A Thousand Corpses, but if you liked his style of A Thousand Corpses, you won't exactly be getting that in this film, which is unfortunate, like I've said. The rest of Zombie's filmography is consistent in its mature and almost stern demeanor. There are some random experimental nature things to it, and there are some here and there, but altogether, this film is pretty much what you're going to be getting for the rest of his films. Until probably at least 31. Again, haven't seen that Salem film yet, but I feel like Salem might have better variation. And I feel like I'm probably going to watch it and then be like, reviewing that as an additional aspect to this review and be like, damn, I was so, wrong, I guess. I don't know. Probably. But yeah, I gave this film 2.5 stars. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was really excited to watch it. I would probably rewatch it again someday. I don't know when. I don't know how long. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, as it is, it's weird enough to be watching Rob Zombie films and enjoying them. Given how, all this time I was thinking, I'd heard someone said Rob Zombie, I thought, oh yeah, that really awful Halloween film that I've never seen, because it's one of those things if you get on the bandwagon of hating Rob Zombie, but his films aren't that bad. They have a uniqueness to themselves, and I can understand people calling him an auteur just in terms of directorial vision. Given that when it comes to auteur theory as it is, I don't believe the film is constructed by one person. That's literally impossible unless that person is fucking Tommy Wiseau, I guess. And I say that as a joke on the fact that he wrote, produced, directed, starred in his own film, and probably edited as well. But yeah, I mean, no one person can do one film, but Rob Zombie definitely has a style, and everyone who contributed to these films definitely adhered to that style, and it worked pretty well. So yeah, let's move on and talk about his next films. I'd say Rob Zombie's films are not like the kind of regular forms of artwork you'd see. They definitely have a style to themselves that is unique. Varying but unique depending on which film exactly you're looking at. So in terms of the block from 2005 to 2009, including, of course, The Devil's Rejects and Halloween from 2007 and Halloween 2 from 2009, his style definitely varies. Now, these two films, Halloween and Halloween 2, which I'm going to review right now, aren't exactly too bad. I've heard them being criticised as the worst of the bunch of Halloween films and terrible set of reboot, but it depends on who you're asking and what you're looking for. In terms of, are you looking for a very Rob Zombie style, you'll definitely get some element of that with the exploitation nature of it, but at the same time, because of the constrictions from the Weinstein brothers and then cutting down on the editing pretty harshly, the Rob Zombification, as I like to call it, of these films definitely lacks in contrast to his previous two films. Which seems kind of strange to say, given how the second, this being Halloween 1 and 2, are very similar in style and approach to the Devil's Rejects. So let's talk about them. Halloween from 2007. My quote, monsters sell books. It's not a bad quote, I think. Straight out of the bat, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I'm going to explain why. So, this film is actually this is the review I gave for my Letterboxd. This film is the same but different to the original Halloween film. It's what the 2018 version could have been if the 2018 version wasn't just a complete rehash of the original. No beef against the 2018 version, I still like it. However, I've even heard of someone saying like, oh, what if Laurie Strode and Michael Myers never actually encountered each other in the whole entire 2018 version? I'm like, wow, that would have been interesting. It's not what they did in this film, of course, the Rob Zombie version, but at the same time, this film is completely different, at least for the first half of the film. So, as I was saying, there are weak elements, mostly with Laurie Strode and her strange and lacking characterization. Overall, an interesting take on the Halloween narrative. Now, what can I say on the film in terms of itself? Obviously, it's a famous recreation of the Michael Myers film, the John Carpenter film from 1978, which I think is an extraordinary horror film, as most probably people would agree. This film, the first 45 minutes, is a long-ass extension of the first scene from Halloween, where, of course, you have Michael Myers as a kid, he kills his sister, and that's it. In this one, you see him getting bullied, you see the kind of traumatization that his family gives on him because of how abusive they are, except for, of course, his mother, who was played by none other than Sheri Moon Zombie. They were definitely going for the angelic look again in this film. And then after he kills his stepdad and his sister, and I think, her boyfriend as well, or at least the guy that she was sleeping with, all in 3 very distinctly different ways. He waits out front of the house with the youngest brother, the little sister, literally Laurie Strode, which they don't even tell you about. So, spoilers, twist, who cares? It's obvious. We've all watched Halloween 2 by this stage, or at least know that in Halloween 2 they say, oh, guess what? This is the original Halloween 2, by the way, not the remake of Halloween 2. They were like, oh, guess what? Michael Myers is actually Laurie Strode's brother. Oh, twist. Oh, it's a bad twist, and probably I think everyone hates it. I definitely hate it. Anyway, because it takes the fear out of the randomness of the film. But this one is like, oh yeah, it's Laurie's fault that the mother ends up shooting herself. That's right, Sheri Moon Zombie dies in this movie. Yeah, she's strongly, in the first 40 minutes, she plays a stripper who is just trying to raise money because to keep her family afloat, because, Michael's in primary school, high school, I guess? I don't know, is he 13? I have no idea, to be honest. They never really clarify even what year it is, so it doesn't really matter. He's a kid, at least. The daughter is in high school, and then, of course, there's the youngest daughter who's a baby. And then there's the husband who is a abusive father, but is also in a wheelchair because he's injured himself at work or something, or whatever, who really cares. So she's using stripping as a way to get money. Everyone calls it the town hoe, puts that on Michael, and it makes him hate them more. And then after he kills his family members and leaves his mother and the baby Laurie alone, he gets put into an asylum. Then you have Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Loomis come in to take care of him. And then for the next, 20-odd minutes, it's just them questioning him and whatever until the mother just gives up and kills herself in front of her baby. Fine, I guess. Weird. And then suddenly, boom, 15 years later, here's a big, brooding, tall, gigantic adult who's never gotten a haircut, who likes making masks, and then he gets out of the asylum and kills people. That's the movie. Literally, the second half is almost a complete remake of the original Halloween film, with some obvious differences, but for the most part, it's just that. It's interesting, I guess, in terms of how they characterize Michael Myers. Instead of him just being a shape, just soulless figure who just kills for no reason, it's, oh, you're the reason that my mother is dead, I'm going to kill you, even though that doesn't make any sense for him to think that. But of course his brain isn't exactly very rational now, is it? Which I guess is probably the excuse that Rob Zombie gave to or I'm very sure he co-wrote it. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting take, and I don't mind it as a film. I actually quite liked it too. The style was definitely different. I found the take of him being a younger kid and exploring his psychology to be rather interesting, because these two films especially look at PTSD and trauma, especially the second one, which looks at the PTSD of Laurie having to deal with the fact that, she got attacked by a giant brooding serial killer called Michael Myers, who ends up, as she finds out later in that film, is her fucking brother. So they are definitely two different takes. I don't like Laurie Strode's characterization in the first film. It's so vastly different to the original, it actually annoyed me more than the fact that Michael Myers actually has a character now outside of the shape, which I didn't mind because they were obviously going straight for that, but because there's such a lack of a characterization for Laurie Strode outside of, she's just an edgy teenager who, does she or does she not have sex? I don't know. They never specify, and it's that was the quirk of the original one, because it's a 70s fucking slasher film. And she was educated in the original, she still, obviously, even in this one, was a babysitter, and there's a lot more fun to it, but I guess it's because, is this a 2000s version? I don't know how old they're meant to be in this film, or what year it is. And it's just weird and confusing. So if you happen to know what year it is in Halloween 1 and 2, please tell me, because I have no idea. Anyway, what can I say about Sheri Moon Zombie, the reason why we're all here? So she plays Michael and Laurie's mum. I'd say spoilers, but who gives a shit? She portrays Deborah Myers, no relation, and isn't too bad. This is my last real favourite performance of hers. I like the motherly performance that she brings to the character and the ultimate tragedy which compels the narrative of the rest of the film, aka Boom. I think that her performance as Baby Firefly in Rejects is stronger, but she definitely has talent enough to portray a motherly figure. So it's not bad. She's not that bad in this film. She's not in it for too much of it, but she's in it enough that you like her character, and I feel like her death was just so random and kind of unfortunate. It's why the fuck did she kill herself? She just couldn't take the trauma of everyone being dead. She has a fucking baby to take care of. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, there's that. But I think it's meant to be the fact that she was in the hospital when Michael kills a nurse, and she's just my child is a monster, I'm going to kill myself now. Good job. Yeah, so again, I gave it 3.5 stars because I still liked it. It has a better, more redefined version and style of zombie from the previous film, from Devil's Rejects, and that's probably because I care much more about the characters in this one, or at least I'm interested to see what happens to them. I'm not exactly saying I care about Michael Myers in this film, but at the same time, you kind of have enough care for the guy, but at the same time, he's still a serial killer who's fucked in the head, so, that's how it goes. So yes, Halloween 2 from 2009. My quote, Mr. Weird, ours fine, actually. get it because he has an interview, like Loomis has an interview with a dude, and Mr. Weird Al's there, and he calls him Mr. Weird, and the guy Weird Al's just like, Al's fine actually because it's Weird Al. I gave this film 1 star. I did not like it at all. I was expecting just Michael Myers to just show up and just be like, fuck, I'm killing everyone now. And just stabbity, stabbity, stab. But then it is like that, but it's just also boring and long and has all this stuff of like, here's more flashbacks to him as a kid. But then it's like, obviously the kid actor from the first film didn't want to return, I guess. And suddenly they've just replaced the actor and it just feels weird. And then Sheri Moon Zombie's back as a ghost and it just feels weird. And now Michael Myers has like, he's still got this mindset of being a kid, and it's trying to do something interesting, but I think it just kind of fails in every approach. In terms of how the whole entire film, outside of the PTSD nature of, Laurie struggling with the trauma of having watched her friends get killed and being hunted by Michael Myers, which is, I think, a really interesting take. I just didn't give a shit. So that didn't help. But also the fact that all the Michael Myers stuff was just kind of lame. And I didn't care about the whole symbolism of the white horse and, him going to a pearly white room when he died, as in, like, ascended to heaven to be with his mother. It's like, I don't care. I could see what they were going, but it's obvious that they just got money from the second. They got a lot of money from the first film, and they're like, all right, let's make a second one, because obviously the first one was, not critically as well received, but definitely financially, and it's just boring, and I don't really care for it. I mean, I didn't even write a review. All I wrote was meaning in quotation marks, but like 6 quotation marks on either side, because honestly, it's trying to be, something artistic in terms of, look, it's got meaning and subtext and stuff, but I don't know, it's just kind of poorly executed, maybe. I don't know, I don't expect that in a Halloween film, but I also don't really care. Sheri Moon Zombie, oh sweet Jesus. Alright, let's talk about her performance, because that's why we're all here. So she's back, not just, of course, as flashback mum from, like, look, it's Michael still in the prison thingy, and now they're walking outside and having fun and talking and whatever, even though it's a different actor. It's just kind of weird. So you have your flashbacks with her as a still alive mum, because, of course, Sheri Moon has to be in a Rob Zombie film. But then she also comes back as a ghost. Fuck. So yeah, they try to give her a gothic presence, but she's kind of just terrible. With also a terrible script to go with it. Yeah, I don't really care much for the script of this film. I don't really care much for this film as a whole. I can see why this film was made for money, and literally only money. But that doesn't excuse this performance. Her performance is lackluster and just pale face. There's nothing there. I get it, she's a ghost. That doesn't mean she can't emote. Like, Jesus Christ, she's a blank slate for the whole entire film. I mean, she's not in it very much, but at the same time, when she is, she's pale, white hair, goth makeup on her face, as in, like, a whole lot of eyeliner and stuff. And she's like, Michael, come play with us. Come play with us, Michael. Of course, I'm referencing The Shining there, but at the same time, it's like that, except not creepy. You remember the twins from The Shining? It's like that, but just not creepy and boring and dumb and pointless. I don't know how to move on to this last performance, so I guess we'll just walk like this. Hey, how's it going? So, 31 is Rob Zombie's 2016 film. It's not a bad film. I mean, I gave it 3 stars. My quote also being, I ain't no fucking clown. Arguably, his most similar style to House of a Thousand Corpses. It has, and possibly, I think I'd say it's maybe my second favourite film of his that I've seen, at least so far. I'll give probably a ranking of my favourite of these films by the end of it, hopefully, if I don't forget to film that. But yeah, I mean, I really liked Halloween, but I think I prefer this one just a bit more. It has a visual flair, a nice audio track, like it has some pretty good surround sound and stuff like that. Oh wow, look, we're doing the tricky angles. Yeah, and what can I say? It has interesting enough characters, like, I mean, look, they're still Rob Zombie characters, remember, so not brilliantly written, but, like, they're just kind of fun. It's just like a gang of pretty much clowns. It's kind of ironic. They're, like, in a traveling circus, and they get killed by people who are dressed up like clowns, but aren't in a traveling circus, and it's just really weird. I don't know what kind of a commentary he was trying to make. Clowns bad guys? I don't know anymore. I think Sheri Moon Zombie is a decent actress in some roles, like Baby Firefly, but has continually been given roles that she doesn't exactly have the chops for, probably since Halloween. Like, I'd say, obviously, her first three films, you know, Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, and, of course, Halloween, the first Halloween film. She's good enough as an actor in all three of them. Halloween 2, obviously she doesn't present herself as anything good or anything bad, she's just bleh. And then in 31, this isn't her role, like, she should not have been cast as the character that she was cast as. Yeah, so this film could have used a lot more character in respect to both its characters and the film itself, like, it just kind of, just there, kind of. And it doesn't always feel as fleshed out as it could be. Alright, so I liked the grindhouse aspect of this film. I liked the final villain. They even set him up before the credits, but then it's like, if you're not going to bring him in till like the end of the film, what's the point of setting him up to begin with? And then like they set him up, they have the opening credits, and then they have the end of his actual scene where he closes the door, and I'm like, what is that meant to mean? Like, why did you edit it like that? It's so weird. And then they actually start with the main characters, and it's like, why didn't you just start with that? Why didn't you just put that scene before the credits? Is it meant to be scarier? Well, look, he's back. He's gone. And he won't be back for the rest of the film until, like, the end of it for the last 20 minutes just to kill two of the last three characters. And then maybe kill Sheri Moon Zombie's character. We don't know. Because, of course, she's the main character and she's going to survive all of this. Like I said, she should not have been given this role. So yeah, this film definitely has a grindhouse attitude that I like. There are elements of it that I like with the villains and how they, just everything about it. I don't exactly like the world that they're in because it's like, this is just like a whole bunch of different sets and locations and yet they're still just getting killed and stuff and I don't really know why and it doesn't make any sense. I don't know why these rich people are doing this. I'm assuming they're rich because they're dressing up as like aristocrats and stuff and it's like, look, they got big wigs on. Wow. Is it commentary? I don't know. It's just weird and potentially kind of really dumb. I don't even remember what I gave this. I gave it 3 stars, so, you know. Overall, it's still a Rob Zombie film by the end of the day, so, you know, either you will or you won't like it, pretty much. I mean, if you like the grindhouse, gory, blood and gore, over like, a lot of unnecessary violence aspect to it, to his films, then you'll like this one. Outside of that, I doubt you will. I mean, I doubt you'll like any of these films if you don't like that kind of style. So yes, let's talk about Sheri Moon Zombie. In this film, she plays Charlie. She's pretty similar to Baby Firefly, but also just, instead of being the crazy bad guy, she's kind of meant to be the hero. She has these obviously over-sexualized elements to herself, and then she's meant to be scared, and then she's meant to become the hero and be like, I'm gonna make sure that we survive. I guess. Even though they kept teasing that she's gonna die next. She's gonna die next. You hear that, everyone? She's gonna die next. Oh my god. But she obviously doesn't, and it's just kind of dumb. So she's not bad in this film, but the role is definitely not really for her. I mean, outside of the overtly sexual nature of her character. Look, it's her ass. Oh my god, it's her ass. She doesn't really have much else in terms of character, because suddenly she's just scared, and then she's scared, and then she's scared, and then she's apparently the hero now, and she just doesn't suit, like, she cannot act well enough to be the hero in this film, and it kind of sucks. She definitely has enough range to go from, you know, sexy to scared to crazy. I don't really think she fits the good guy role. I think she should have been one of the bad guys. If she were to play a role in this film at all, but she definitely just does not... She should not have been cast as the main character in this film. I mean, credit where credit is due. She does try, but I don't think this was really her type of role, and I think her husband's bias for casting her, especially in leads, definitely shows. But yeah, so 3 stars, and that's what I have for that wonderful film. There's really not much I can say about it. A bunch of traveling circus people kind of get captured by the people who might or might not be in a circus. I don't know. They don't explain it. And then they all just slowly get tortured and killed, but like hunted down by like different dudes or chicks even. Well, one girl, I should say. There's like dwarf Nazi dude. Then there's 2 psycho clown brothers. And then there's the big dude with the he's like, I don't know, sister or girlfriend, or I don't know, but just like, yeah, that's the duo. And then suddenly it's like the rich white guys are like, oh no, we've run out of bad guys to kill the good guys. What are we gonna do? So they just get the guy from the start of the film to come in and kill them, and he does. Until the last scene where Sheri Moon Zombie survives because they run out of time. The 12-hour thing is over, and then she can leave. And so she walks away, and then she's on a road. And then he shows up, and then he grabs out his knife to kill her. And she scrunches up her fist, and they smile at each other like, yes, we're going to fight, even though she's obviously really almost knocked out. And he could just go like, stab and done. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know. I gave it 3 stars just because of its style, and because I liked that main clown dude. I know he's not a clown, but it's what I can define him as. The main bad guy, I guess, the best and most interesting of them. Yeah, that's really all I can say about this film. And her performance. So yeah, I will see you in a few weeks when I continue this video to film my review of the Salem thingy, whatever it is. I keep thinking Salem's Lot, but that's the Toby Hooper film, even though it's a miniseries. I don't know, Lords of Salem, that's the one. Cool. See you then. Ciao. So, I guess lucky last, it's finally time to record my review of the one and the only, let's hope this isn't too zoomed into my face, no it isn't, thank God, The Lords of Salem. Yes, I actually bought the Blu-ray of this. So The Lords of Salem is a 2012 film, written and directed by, of course, the one and only Rob Zombie. I had to get the Blu-ray as I had, I think I noted earlier, borrowed the rest of the films from a colleague, again, thank you, Dave, but unfortunately he didn't have Lords of Salem. And I actually believe that it is now my new favourite Rob Zombie film. Hard to say, I still really like House of a Thousand Corpses, so there's something. So what can I say about this film? And I must admit, I don't like holding the camera like this. Hello, Snoopy. He's having a fun time. Let's see what Snoopy thinks of this film. Hello, doggo. Cool. Yes, so since I last recorded, I have actually aged. I am now that's meant to be 21. Okay, I'm now 21. So that's a fun fact. And this is also my 400th film of the year, not including rewatches. I have to say that because it's like some films I've watched this year twice, and so if I've watched it the second time, it doesn't count. So, you know. That's the thing that I'll probably do a video on at the end of the year, my 500 films of the year as I plan to make. So, The Lords of Salem, what can I say about this film? If Snoopy could stop bloody going crazy over there. The Lord of Salem tells the tale of Heidi, played by Sheri Moon Zombie, the reason we're all here, a radio station DJ in Salem, Massachusetts, who receives a wooden box containing a mysterious vinyl record. As Heidi listens to the record, it starts to play backwards, and she unwittingly unleashes a coven of 300-year-old witches who were imprisoned and tortured during the Salem witch trials. Is Heidi going mad, or are the Lords of Salem returning for revenge? This film is absolutely insane. And I actually really liked it for a couple of reasons, and I wrote them down because that's just how it goes. So let's see. Let's start with my review of Sheri Moon Zombie. So she plays Heidi Hawthorne, a radio host who becomes part of the Salem witch cult through hauntings and the like. You know, the usual stuff. Oh, listen to a haunted record, boom, ghosts. What? What? Except, like, more than half the times when the spooky ghost people show up, she doesn't even notice it, and it's great. It's like, they're just, for the audience, like, a background character just, like, over behind my shoulder who's just creepily staring at you. Hi, Cooper, how's it going? And then there's one part where paintings just bleed from the eyes, and she's just crying, so she doesn't even notice it. And it's pretty cool. So it's as much of an effect for the audience as it is for the characters, which is really nicely done. So she plays the role well, and even her wig, the dreadlocks, they don't really disappoint. Like, there are times in close-ups that you're like, is that really what someone's, like their fringe line looks like with dreadlocks? But, I don't know, I've never really known anyone to have dreadlocks before, and the only person I did shave them off before I really took any notice. I was a teacher in high school. Yeah, so this is definitely not an iconic performance. This isn't No Baby Firefly. But definitely a strong performance that works well for the film and for the character. So realistically, I think this might be, it's not her best role, I would say that. I'd probably say that Baby Firefly in maybe Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses is probably a better character in terms of the goofiness, the way that she enjoys playing it, but in terms of a real stable, like, centered character, I think she plays Heidi really well. For comparison, and I will compare this film a lot to The Shining by Stanley Kubrick, she's very much like Jack Torrance in that film. She's just she's there, she's calm, collected, and instead of how he goes crazy, she more or less just had a mental breakdown. She has a mental breakdown in a different way, like how he has the crazy, I'm going to get an axe and kill my wife and child because ghosts are telling me to. She is kind of just like, becomes more of a druggie and has all these more downward turns that are much more, I'd say, realistic. Even though I don't really know why they need to do that, but it's like, I guess it's just to keep her there until a certain period of time. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's a weird film. It doesn't make much sense for certain aspects, but at the same time, it's so kind of chilling and slow and cool that I don't really care. So I guess it's kind of like, I mean, it's not one of those films that you're going to be like, oh, just don't think too hard into it, because it's like, I mean, it's kind of the horror of the unpredictable nature of it, like what the hell is going to happen next, and how bad could it be for some characters, and yeah, I mean, it arguably could be really bad for some characters, but they never really tell you how it all ends in a way. I'm not going to spoil the ending, of course, but it's definitely very interesting. So what can I say about the film? So this is The Shining, this is like The Shining, but about the Salem witch trial / cult. More or less, it's modern day set, which again is very rare for a Rob Zombie film to have a present day film. This seems to be set maybe it's set in the early 2000s. It doesn't exactly say, because they have internet, they specifically note that, but they don't like really use mobile phones or anything, so yeah, I don't know, maybe because it's cheaper to do that, and I mean, it's not like they were really needing to at all either, so, they use home phone, landline stuff, so yeah. It's surreal and creepy and foreboding, 3 words that I really like to use when it comes to a horror film sometimes, instead of it's jump scary and pathetic and annoying. So that's nice. It works effectively as a horror film with good direction, because, I mean, I'd say for once Rob Zombie knows what he's doing, but it's like, actually it kind of looks like he really liked The Shining and just like kind of copied that kind of style of filmmaking, which is really cool. What else can I say? You've got an interesting script in the way things develop. Like, the first act is quite slow, but it has a nice, like, slow burn feel to it. It has a nice, like, prologue elements to it as well, so you have enough of a setup, but you're also like, okay, but where could this go, and how could it develop and unravel and whatever, so it keeps you, keeping on. The second act is pretty good, actually. I think it's maybe my favorite because it's when all the real haunting stuff properly starts happening, and Heidi kind of starts going insane and gets like affected by all the stuff that's happening around her, with some really surreal ass scenes as well, but like loosely tangled between, which is really nicely done. You have likable characters. I mean, there's not many characters in the film. It's kind of your stock standard thing. Like, you got your main character, you got your house tenant that she lives with. That's the she doesn't live with them. She's lives in an apartment building, and the house owner is there with her sisters. I think they're trying to be Australian. It's kind of weird. They don't. I don't know, weird accents. If for some reason it's hard for me to understand an Australian accent that isn't stereotypical in a film. So that's something new. You have her radio DJ hosts, and who are Rob Zombie regulars, and you have the guy who studied he's like the Dr. Loomis of this universe kind of thing. Like, he knows about this stuff because he did the research, he published a book, whatever. And they're all interesting characters. I mean, you also have his wife, but there's no real other characters to it. You have the receptionist in one scene. You have some other people in very minor scenes, so there's not really much else there. So it's a good, tight cast. So the characters aren't bad. They don't like resolve to poor dialogue or anything. So it's always interesting and always something different. What do you have? You got good cinematography. I like the cinematography in this film. It's not barbaric and silly like House of Thousand Corpses. It's not dull and depressing like Devil's Rejects. And it's definitely nothing like his next film, 31 or whatever. I think it's 31. I don't know. But it's definitely not like that, how it's like, they tried to make, a good cinematography decisions, but in the end just kind of failed. You have great sound design and good uses of music, because like the whole thing is to do with her being a radio DJ, so of course Rob Zombie knows his music. It's a dishwasher. And so you have them playing this record that has some really good uses of instrumentals and stuff. And they even like dissect the music later in the film too, and it's really well done. And as someone like myself who studied music for a number of years, like, it's quite interesting to see how they did that. And it's like, oh, cool, it's actually Rob Zombie showing not just the fact that he can do a really good, like, tense, suspenseful horror film, but also he can incorporate something that he has something so personally affected with inside it, rather than it just being like, oh, he just did the soundtrack, or it's just a bunch of crazy-ass music. Whoa. Like, this is genuinely stunning music level of stuff. And it has amazing production design. Like, the sets that they have are really cool. From the crazy-ass mansion to just her apartment, her workstation. They really went all out for this one, and I really liked it. They used some subtlety here and there, and then they overdosed on, like, say, like, their office or whatever. There's so much stuff there, but it feels lived in, it feels real. It's very nicely done. So this is, I think, easily Rob Zombie's best and most effective film. Again, I would probably still say that my favourite would be House of a Thousand Corpses, because then you have the presence of really bombastic characters like Sid Haig. Whereas you don't really have this in this film. This is definitely more like The Shining, but you don't, Sheri Moon Zombie is no Jack Nicholson, but you also don't have a you don't have a, you don't have those main, if I'm looking at the characters from that film, I'm trying to remember what all their names are. I mean, you don't have Shelley. You don't really have a Shelley-like character, but then you don't really need that character either. Like, you do have a love interest in this film, but even the love interest isn't that. It's more realistic, I'd say. You don't have a kid, obviously, so there's no real character who actually has this supernatural presence. It's just the main character. And then you don't have what's his name? I don't want to say the black guy in the film, but I mean, that's what... I can't remember what his name is, but you know the character. Like, he's the one who also... The older guy who has the Shining and lives wherever. You kind of have him with the guy who writes the book. So again, similar to the Dr. Loomis character. So it's not too crazy with its editing until maybe the final 10 minutes. But for the rest of the film, it has a great pace that sets up some nice tense moments, and there's a really good jump scare in it that's like, It's just random ass. Like it's a real like it's set up as kind of like a cliche scene. Like one of the from the start you get the setup that room number 5 in the apartment building that she's in is being used by this cult of some kind. But you don't exactly know how. And then the one time it finally opens, like she goes in, and there's this weird experience, and then something just appears there, and it's just so random and never explained, and never really comes up again, except for like maybe a few minutes later in one other pivotal scene. And it just got me. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And it kind of scared me too. I'm just like, that is really cool. Because it's just so random. You don't know if this thing is going to be threatening or not. And it just has this presence to it. It's so well done. But yeah, even the crazy final 10 minutes has some wacky ass editing. It's surreal as hell, and I loved it. Like, I think it definitely this film has a great balance of, the slow, tense presence like The Shining, but then it has some nice kind of callbacks to House of a Thousand Corpses with just the crazy ass ending and stuff. I'd highly recommend this film, and it's definitely an interesting comparison film to you have House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting film, and I really quite enjoyed it. I would honestly definitely recommend it. Out of maybe all of his films, I'd probably recommend you watch, if I was to suggest someone watch Rob Zombie films, I'd be like, okay, start with House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. Depends on which style you like the most, but, one overall is going to come up on top of the other. And this one mixes the styles pretty well. I gave the film 4 out of 5 stars out of 4 out of 4 stars out of 5. I don't know what my quote was for the film, to be honest. I usually have a quote that I write down, but I don't know if I... Actually, I'm not going to say what it is because I just remembered it and it's pretty gruesome. There's not a lot of iconic lines in this film, but the lines that are there are pretty creepy and kind of disturbing. Yeah, the line is "bleed us a king," so it's not perfect, but I thought that was kind of creepy and nice. So yeah, and this has been my video on Rob Zombie films, and also Sheri Zombie films, I guess. Depends on which one you want to prioritize in this case. So yeah, he definitely has an interesting repertoire of films, and I like how people call him like a true horror auteur. He's definitely an interesting director. I'm still yet to see Free from Hell, and I don't know if I ever will. I don't know when I will, I should say. Unfortunately, for those in America, you already have the film on 4K. It only just, it's the end of October now that I'm recording this. And, it's literally the day before Halloween. It's the 30th today. And I think it was only maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that they actually premiered Free from Hell. They even had it on my birthday night, but of course, because I already had plans on that night, I couldn't see the encore screening because they had it screened 4 times this month, and I still couldn't see it. So yeah, it might be something I get around to doing later. But yeah, no, I definitely recommend Rob Zombie's films. Some over others, but it depends on your connection to horror and to films as a whole. He's definitely not someone for everyone. I'd probably never show my parents a Rob Zombie film because it's not up their alley. Even if they really like the Halloween films, which I don't really think that they do, I definitely wouldn't show them the Rob Zombie Halloween films. So yeah, it's interesting. And Sheri Moon Zombie is definitely an interesting actress. So yeah, but I think it's probably best that she works mostly with her husband because even in Lords of Salem, her opening shot is outside of her driving, which is just kind of a weird opening shot, has her just completely butt naked on a bed, and you practically get almost a complete full frontal. So, sure, I guess, whatever floats your boat, Rob Zombie. I definitely recommend these films. Obviously, some more over others, and I know there are a lot of hardcore Rob Zombie films who are very mixed on his films. I have a colleague who actually does not like Lords of Salem, who thinks it's his worst film. But then I know a lot of online fan bases really like Devil's Rejects over the rest of his films, saying that that's the best of his films. So yeah, depends what you're looking for. But yeah, so thanks for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. If you want to check out more videos like this, I have my, I don't know if this definitely might be a part of my Halloween, Horrorween 2019 set of videos, which I did for a whole bunch of videos for Halloween this year, for October. But this was definitely part of my, of course, reviewing actor video playlist, where I've also reviewed Keanu Reeves and Nicolas Cage of recent, Masami Nagasawa, who's easily my most popular video with like of the series, that is, with over 250 views. It's my Japan special. In fact, I really quite admire that that's so popular. Who else do we have? Dakota Johnson, Aubrey Plaza, Cara Delevingne. There's a hell of a lot, and there's more to come. So yeah, feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. Check out my other videos, and if you have any suggestions for actors or actresses that you want me to watch, I know very much that they're all called actors now, but you know, I'd still like to have some kind of distinction. If you want me to check out anyone and their particular types of films, I usually try to look at the worst of their films and the best of their films, kind of mix it up, see what they're kind of good at. Also, so I don't go completely insane. So yeah, see you next time. Adios. Whoa, shit.